Oh, yes. The light went on. The light went on at the right time. Got the Pink Floyd today. No. Yep, this is our raw channel. Our raw channel. We do this. It's not buttoned up. It's not crazy. Yeah. Yeah. We try not to use profanity. We try not. I'm looking live. Look at this. I'm looking live at the chat. Look at that right there. Look at how cool is that? I don't even know how to share this. How do you share this? Yeah, I like this, man. There it is. All right, I'm going to tweet that out. How about that? A couple tweets out today. What's going on? Vamos. Hola, ¿qué tal? My name is Me llamo Juan. Me llamo Juan. Bueno. I wish I would have paid attention in Spanish in high school.
You know
I didn't pay attention. I didn't pay attention a lot in high school.
I took 2 years of Spanish in high school when I showed up and stuff. I learned more Spanish in a month working in a freaking restaurant than I did in 2 years.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. Yes, I didn't pay attention much in school, but I did a little bit in college. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, Fabian. Good afternoon. Beautiful day today. Hey, really heartbroken by the plane crash last night. I'm going to get into that in the open. I mean, if that doesn't put everything in reality about life and who was on those planes and those little young girls, those ice skaters, I mean, if that doesn't make you look at your day and say, you know, let's have fun. And any day could be our last day. I had a rough time with that last night. My wife and I'll save it for the show here, but I'm sure everybody's got a really heavy heart about what happened last night. God, that was so brutal.
You're listening to the JT the Brick Show, where the Raider Nation has come to sound off.
Let's do this.
For over 20 years.
It's the JT the Brick Show, broadcasting live from the Finley Cadillac Performance Studio.
Raiders bring a blitz. He takes up off the middle, and he's wrapped up from behind. Max Crosby.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 20 years.
Open at the 35, racing to the 20, 10, touchdown Raiders.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
Out of the gate, JT, as we start another busy day here on the flagship of the Silver and Black, Raider Nation Radio, the Raiders mobile app, LV Sports Network, and live on my YouTube channel at JT the Brick YT. We are all brought to you by the monologue. Will always be brought to you by PTs. They fuel the monologue. Imagine me having a brand, a company that supports me, 70 plus taverns here, one of the great tavern companies and gaming companies in town. They're a big reason why I'll be in New Orleans. Next Thursday, I'll be in New Orleans at this time on Radio Row, and it should be pretty chaotic because all the big names that we're booking kind of get there on Tuesday, Wednesday, and we line them up for Thursday, Friday. So I'm excited to go to New Orleans, place that I love. I actually love New Orleans. Haven't been there in a while. Was going to go this year, but they put it December 28th on the Raiders schedule, and we were long gone by then. We were eliminado. We were eliminated. There was no need to go to New Orleans. I mean, for the fans who went, we thank you. But I wasn't going down there. 10-game losing streak, and then we getting it going around. So I didn't go to New Orleans this year, and I want to go back. So we'll be there for Super Bowl, and we're excited about that. Hey, let me begin on a somber note from the plane crash last night with the helicopter in the nation's capital above the Potomac. My wife and I were watching something last night when that broke in live, and I don't think we went to bed till 3 a.m, and we sat up and watched all the coverage wall to wall on several different platforms. And we were really, really sad last night. And when more and more information came in today of the young people who were on that plane, every life is valuable. Every life is important. But when you hear about young girls who are ice skaters and what's happening as more and more information's coming out, it should put everyone's life in perspective. should put everyone's life in perspective, what happened on that approach into Reagan National last night, and then the coverage afterwards, the emergency workers. I don't often talk about breaking news every day here. You know me. I don't. I can't talk about every hurricane, every tornado, every event that happens. But last night had a profound effect on my wife and I, because my son traveled all day yesterday, all day through Dallas to get to Mobile. And I got another son who's away from home in college. And you think about traveling, and we all travel, most of us do. And to find out what happened there last night, to wake up this morning, which we didn't get a great night's sleep, it really bothered us. And to wake up this morning and watch it again as more information came out, it's very important to put your life and sports and everything we do. You think you got a problem, you got a flat tire, you're sitting in traffic, something's going on with your finances. I get it. We all have problems and we all deal with it differently. But that was a rough one. That was a really rough event that happened, and a tragedy in this country. Fortunately, this doesn't happen often. And when it does, it should gravitate people together, not divide people. It should bring people together, not divide them. So I wanted to open up the show, and, prayers to all of the individuals who were lost last night. And I can't imagine what their families are doing today and how deeply affected they are. You just take one family, one life, and multiply that by hundreds of people. And then you start getting up into the 60s and you start doing the math. It's just a really dark day. And last night, and I just wanted to start the show, was telling some people in the chat, whatever you think about, you get angry about sports, you're upset about this or that, put it in perspective. Not everything has to be, look at what happened last night, it was awful. But I think the point I wanted to make in the monologue as we open it up is enjoy life. And think of those people who are about to enjoy another chapter in their life. And it came to an end so horribly last night over the Potomac. Really difficult. All right, let's get into sports. It's why you come here. And it looks like Patrick Graham is official. The Raiders will put it out when it gets put out by ESPN and everybody else. And I'm pretty confident that it's a done deal. I go with it here. And the Raiders are re-signing Patrick Graham to be their defensive coordinator, according to multiple air quote reports. And again, the Raiders will put that out when they're comfortable. They've been pretty busy doing a lot of things. I'd like to spend, Vinny Bonsignore is going to join us next hour, along with Kevin Bollinger, two of the best insiders for the Raiders. So I left this whole hour open because I think this is a massive moment for the Raiders here with Patrick Graham. I've gotten to know Patrick Graham over the last couple of years, and he is a gentleman, an A-list coach. And I've told you on this platform several times that he is going to leave us to be a head coach. I think he got really close in Jacksonville. And I think Jacksonville might regret that they didn't give him the head coaching job, and they gave it to Liam Cohn, who said, Duval. That's not going over well. And I told you for the last couple of years that Patrick Graham, with his interviews with Seattle and the other interviews he had, he's leaving. He's going to be a head coach. He deserves to be a head coach. And then I shared with only a few people, I don't recall if I shared it here, is that I thought that was one of the classiest moves ever when Patrick Graham stayed there as defensive coordinator for the Raiders when Antonio Pierce surpassed him to become the head coach. Let me get into that. Mark Davis made that decision. I think it was a good one. Mark Davis needed someone quickly after he fired Josh McDaniels, talked to people in the building, and Antonio Pierce impressed him enough to take over the team as an interim. Well, Patrick Graham was available for that job, and you didn't hear a peep out of him. And I took notice of that. And saw him on the road. And when Patrick Graham calls the games from high atop Allegiant Stadium, his glass is right next to Lincoln Kennedy and Jason Horowitz, and I'm in that room a lot. And he just went about his business. No complaining. How come I'm not the head coach? Why am I not the interim head coach? I'm higher up on the food chain, which he was, than Antonio Pierce, who was a linebacker coach, who technically reported to Patrick Graham. And I said, that's a humble guy. That's a guy you want to know and get to know. Yale educated, Yale. I mean, the guy's coached everywhere. And to retain him, I think, is really important because the defense played super hard for Patrick Graham. And Patrick Graham had a rough year last year because all of his starters got injured. He didn't have Christian Wilkins and Marcus Epps. Okay, he didn't have Malcolm Kuntz. And then all of a sudden, Jacorian Bennett can't play. And guys are getting hurt left and right, and he's still dialing up that defense. And I think we all agree. He's a really good defensive coordinator. I've talked to people in the building that said his communication skills are amazing. Amazing. That's all going to crescendo with him becoming a head coach. But we get him again. And I don't know how long the contract is. None of my business. I don't talk other people's money. But I think today, if you love Pete Carroll, if I told you a month ago, because I thought Patrick Graham, there's 50-50 chance he's going to be a head coach or he's going to leave because he's going to get a defensive coordinator job with another team. Another team's going to call and offer him more. He's deciding to stay with the Raiders. The Raiders obviously like him. We got Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham as our defensive guys. And I hope Robbie Leonard and whatever happens with the rest of these coaches, right? Rob Ryan's gone. He went to USC to be their defensive coordinator, assistant head coach. Big job for Rob. Great for him. Great guy. Can't wait to see him again. If you would have told me, because Ben Johnson, if he was the de facto number one choice and the Raiders didn't get him, okay, that's a dead topic now. But man, if you would have dropped in my basket a month ago that Pete Carroll would be the head coach and Patrick Graham would be the defensive coordinator, holy crap, that's great. Pete Carroll's a defensive head coach. He's won 181 games. He's had defensive coordinators, Ken Norton Jr., other ones along the way, good coaches. But for Patrick Graham to be here, that is fabulous. That gives continuity to the defense. You would assume that Pete Carroll is going to insist that he and John Spytek get veteran defensive players on the back end. Remember, he coached the Legion of Boom, LOB. The Legion of Boom were bigger, stronger, and nasty, dude. I'm not saying Trayvon Merrick, Marcus Epps, Jacorian Bennett, Jack Jones. They're no Legion of Boom. Okay? Good players, I got their back. That's no LOB. Now you got Pete Carroll, who coached the Legion of Boom. And you got Patrick Graham dialing up the defense. That is super sharp. Really good. Now, I don't know if it's Darrell Bevel, who the offensive coordinator is going to be. I have no problem waiting. When we do, we'll analyze who's going to be the offensive coordinator. But this, to me, is one hell of a move. You want to talk about potentially losing a guy. If he was gone, and I came in here on Tuesday or live on Wednesday from New Orleans, and it was Rob Leonard as defensive coordinator, defensive line coach, I like him a lot. I'd be like, okay, but he's not Patrick Graham. He's not. And if they got a new defensive coordinator from the Seahawks 10 years ago, whoever, I'd be like, okay, let's welcome him, but it's not Patrick Graham. So Graham's contract expired at the end of this season, and he interviewed twice for the Jaguars head coaching vacancy before they hired Liam Cohn. Graham also interviewed for the Jacksonville defensive coordinator job. I don't know how the hell they let him out of the building. How did Jacksonville let him out of the building? You could have had Liam Cohn as the head coach and Patrick Graham as the assistant head coach and the defensive coordinator for the Jaguars. So when Pete Carroll was introduced with John Spytek, this is fantastic. The Raiders finished 25th in scoring defense in 2024, but were beset by long-term injuries. So I'm not throwing out what happened going 4-13. But thank God I don't have to explain to Raider Nation the importance of Patrick Graham and how many guys were out hurt. Because I don't think anybody in Raider Nation is going to say, well, look at the rankings of his defense. They were down. Why is Patrick Graham back here? Come on. Reason why Antonio Pierce was not retained and Patrick Graham's defense wasn't at the top was all the injuries. So I'm making a big deal out of this today because I think it's a big deal. And I don't make a big deal out of a lot. Of course, I want to support the head coach. I'm a big Max Crosby guy. I want a rookie quarterback like you. I think Brady being involved with the quarterback is exceptional. I like John Spytek. I met him once, but I really like this. And I think Raider Nation, you need to call in on this or tweet or sound off like you got a pair at 702-365-9200. If you're a fan of Patrick Graham, today is a Patrick Graham type show because I like him a lot. And I think he's done a lot of things off the field and on the field and around the organization. This, to me, is a really big, big deal. And if he wasn't retained, I would have did a whole show on him saying thank you for everything, and I hope to see you again soon. I would have missed this guy. Yeah. And I expect him to be gone to be a head coach in the next cycle. Let me repeat that. That's a compliment. I expect Patrick Graham next year to be a head coach very quickly. And he could have been a head coach this year. So your opinion on that, 702-365-9200. And another topic for today, knowing Pete Carroll's a defensive-minded head coach with Patrick Graham, what's the one style that you'd like to change on the Raider defense? Ooh, that's a good one. I'll go first. You know I always go first. I don't have a teleprompter. This is this. Here's what I need. Here's what I want. I don't want any more cushion. I don't want 10 yards. I'm done with 10 yards. I need Willie Brown. I need the bump and run. I need Mike Haynes, hands out, hit the guy 5 yards. You know, they don't hit Kelsey anywhere. We have it. Thank God Pete's here. You know, Patrick Graham, hey, my only knock will be, what are we doing with Kelsey? That's my only knock. What are we doing with Kelsey? We don't put our hands on Kelsey. But I'd like to see a more ferocious defense with Pete Carroll's objectives handed over to Patrick Graham, where Pete says to Patrick Graham, hey, Patrick, you're here because we love you, man. We love your defense, but we want to change this. What do you want to change? Assuming everybody's healthy. Christian Wilkins, do you want to blitz more? Do you want to draft more? Someone told me the other day, I forget who it was. I got to know this. So someone said, you know, the Raiders need another defensive lineman. I said, what? Another defensive lineman? What are you talking about? Well, it's a great draft for defensive linemen. We need another defensive lineman. I'm like, what are you talking about? We got Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins. I'm assuming Malcolm Kuntz, right? We got Tyree Wilson. Ooh. First round pick, Bobby. What does Pete and Spytech think of Tyree Wilson? I can tell you one thing. If Tyree Wilson walks past you in the hallway, he looks like Kevin Durant plus 200 pounds. He's a freak. And maybe these guys can get something out of him. I would hope they could. So what I think is going to be the biggest change, I'm just assuming this, is that they're going to get bigger and stronger in the secondary. Pete Carroll loves the secondary that is bigger, stronger, and more violent than anything the Raiders have had, only going back to George Atkinson and Jack Tatum, Skip Thomas, right? When you looked at Soul Patrol 1 or 2, what were they famous for? Help me out. They would decapitate you over the middle of the field. They would hit you late. They would ride you out of bounds. Their tackling was so ferocious that it intimidated people. It's called Soul Patrol. Look it up. All right. Pete Carroll might have had something, if not better. And that's sacrilegious, right? To say, how could it be better? Well, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, and Richard Sherman were unbelievable. That was the Legion of Boom. You could put that up there against Soul Patrol. And Pete's used to that. And I think that Pete, who grew up in the Bay Area, remembers Atkinson and Tatum and Skip Thomas and Willie Brown. You imagine having those four out on the field. Let me stop the show. You got Skip Thomas, Dr. Death. You got Willie Brown, number 24. You got George Atkinson, the smallest of all of them and the meanest, along with Jack Tatum, the assassin. Oh, wow. And then you go to another Super Bowl, you got Lester Hayes, Mike Haynes on the corner. So I think that Pete and Spytech and Patrick Graham are looking for that type of team now. Violent, Raiders, tackling, really, taking people out in games legally. And I love this about Patrick Graham because I think Patrick Graham can put together what Pete Carroll wants, which is a more intense, violent defense that has to be bigger or stronger. You remember when we drafted Carl Joseph? Remember Carl Joseph? He was small, safety. He was an okay player. He wasn't a bad player. I thought he was okay. He wasn't great in the passing game, but man, that guy could hit, right? He could hit. And if you look at some of the other, Eric Turner, go through the years of some of the safeties who played, Charles Woodson moved to safety, right? Charles moved from corner to safety. Charles wasn't known for being like, Atkinson and Tatum where he'd take your head off. Charles was just really good because he could do a lot. He could blitz off the safety. He could recover. He could do everything. But Pete Carroll is used to one style. The Seattle secondary was always, to me, their strongest point, other than Russell Wilson and a little bit of Marshawn Lynch. When they had good receivers, they weren't like legendary. They weren't Biletnikoff and Branch up in Seattle, and they won. You know, Doug Baldwin, you go through some of the receivers they had, it was not Randy Moss. It was not. They didn't have those type of players. They ran the ball, played defense, and protected the quarterback. So I'm shifting my priority now to running back. I'm shifting my priority because I'm hoping they get a quarterback. I don't control that. I hope they do. But I know they can get a running back. And last year changed the history books in NFL history. And unfortunately, we were a bad part of it. We let Josh Jacobs go. For what? Money? How much money? How much money? Like, we have that money. We could have kept Josh Jacobs. Yeah. They didn't. Okay, Josh played better in Green Bay. Why did he play better? He had a better team. He had a better offensive line than the Raiders. Why did Saquon Barkley have one of the greatest years ever? Because the Eagles have one of the best offensive lines in Super Bowl history. Pretty easy to run through holes. He's running for 60 yards on certain plays because there's no one in front of him. And then you had Derrick Henry went to Baltimore. How'd he do? Pretty good, right? Well, he played on a better team than the Titans. So we let Josh Jacobs go. It would be great to still have him because he's got a lot left in the tank and for Pete Carroll to coach him. But he's gone. So got to get another running back. I think you can get a really good rookie running back in this draft. Vinny Bonsignore will join us from Mobile on the depth of that position. And then one more thing I sent out a tweet from Vinny today. He was asking the question in front of Jackson Dart, the quarterback out of Ole Miss, who his high school center was Jackson Powers Johnson. I believe that Jackson Dart would be a perfect addition to this team. Perfect. But 6 is probably too high. So I'm honest about that. 6 is too high. And I think if you trade back to get him, you'll lose him. And I think there's some really good players in the top 6. Example, Brock Bowers at 13. Ashton Genty, the running back. The receiver, the receivers are pretty good. I mean, really good in the top 6. I don't know. But that's something I'm going to ask Vinny about also coming up. And trades. I have someone here on the chat. You can talk freely on the chat at JT the Brick YT on YouTube. And, what about trades? People want to bring back Khalil Mack. I'm for everything. Anything that makes the team better. You got a lot of money to spend, a lot of political draft equity to go get. It's a nice monologue. 20 minutes, leaving time for Raider Dave in Denver on the mobile app. Hello, Dave. Good.
On every single point. I only want to add that speed in the defensive secondary is something that's got to be a huge focus. I don't know if Bennett and Jones will end up, retaining and adding the depth pieces, but the speed and the power and the run stopping at the safety position and the smart type of play that Cam Chancellor and others in Legion of Boom had, that is definitely the focus. They talked in the press conference about the type of players, the type of people they want on this team. And darn well, they were speaking about the type of players they had that were in the back end that ended up helping that team get to the Super Bowl. The offensive line is something that we've talked about. And you're right. Even if the Jacobs was here or even if what you saw from Zeus a year ago, Jacobs couldn't do anything because the A-gap was blown up all the time. So you're exactly right that, the offensive line has got to get better. I appreciate the focus. And let's hope that they can go ahead and keep this defensive line coach as well as Patrick Graham. Every time somebody comes to the Raiders, we want to go ahead and congratulate him for coming. But I want to go ahead and congratulate Patrick Graham for staying because this is continuity. They're working on some things for continuity for the offense and maybe getting the band back together. If it happens, it happens. Whatever needs to happen to get this thing rolling right from the get-go is exactly what Pete Carroll wants, and I'm seeing it come to fruition, especially on the defensive side with the retention of one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, so good that he's been interviewed for head coaches. Thank you, JT.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. You're really smart. You know what the deal is. And as I said, I think if we lost Patrick Graham for whatever reason, it would have been disappointing. That would have been a bummer. To sit back and go, oh, my God, Patrick Graham's gone. Really? Yeah, how many times is Max going to need another defensive coordinator? How many head coaches you want to give Max? Well, this is a really big move for Max to play under Pete Carroll and to have and retain Patrick Graham. I'd love Antonio Pierce to be the linebacker coach. Some things are not going to happen. But when you look at good coaching, that's really important. And Patrick Graham is a premier coach in this league. And I don't think that Patrick Graham was getting interviews for the Rooney Rule. A lot of times, and Mike Silver goes nuts about this, acclaimed journalist. Sometimes you bring in a candidate for the Rooney Rule early in the process. No. I support that on steroids. All minority candidates should get real interviews, not sham interviews, as they call them. Real interviews. Eric Bieniemy, right? I love Eric Bieniemy. His track record. Okay, I don't think he interviews well. Over the years, he hasn't. And I think other than that, he would have got a lot of jobs. Maybe he does on the next cycle. Who knows? But Patrick Graham's legit. That guy is legit. He sees the play develop very quickly, and he's a tremendous asset, I think, to this organization. So I'm excited about that. Raider Red in L.A. on the mobile app. What's going on, Red?
Hey, JT. Super excited about today's topic. I was keeping my fingers crossed that we would keep Patrick Graham because in 23, I think we got a glimpse of what this defense could be under his tutelage. And we had high expectations for 24. And unfortunately, we had all those injuries that prevented us from reaching our potential. One good thing that did come out of that is we had a lot of young guys get a lot of experience, and that is a great way of building the depth. So I'm excited about that. I really love that Pete Carroll came in. I just think that he's a smart guy. He understands the importance of continuity. Bringing Patrick Graham back was absolutely the right decision. That's going to speak to the continuity of the defense. And then I believe also I want to mention that I believe our offensive line is going to get better as well because I don't believe there's any position group on the field that needs continuity to play with each other over and over again more than the offensive line. So I really believe that some gems were found on the offensive line in the draft last year. And I think those guys, all the experience they got this year is going to pay off next year. We're going to be greatly improved, in my opinion, next year. So I'm super excited about the direction that we're in, especially after last year. It just feels like a new day.
Yeah, it feels good. I don't know if I'd say it, feels like a new day or that. Thanks for the call. But it just feels like it's a safe move. It's the right move. And you don't want certain people to get away. That's really what this show's about today. Who do you want to retain or not? What we're finding out this week is there's a lot of coaches that are getting fired and landing. I gave the example, Bobby, of my former next door neighbor, Johnny Morton, who played for the Raiders. He just became the offensive coordinator of the Lions. That might be the best job in football. Literally, in this cycle, they got rid of Ben Johnson, who has that thing stacked. Dan Campbell's got that thing stacked. Johnny Morton leaves Sean Payton in Denver as the pass game coordinator. How'd Bo Nix do? Really well. He becomes the OC of Detroit. And now Detroit, I would still pick him next summer to possibly be my Super Bowl pick again. I picked Buffalo a couple of years back-to-back to win. I thought Buffalo would win Super Bowls. So Detroit, that's a really good job. The Chicago Bears job is not a great job right now. They were a train wreck. Jacksonville, I like that job a lot because I like their roster. I think their roster is really good. And the Raiders roster is better than most people think. Remember, we just went through a whole season where people on Fox Sports 1, ESPN, and NFL Network didn't know our guys. They didn't even know they had no idea who Jacorian Bennett was. Zero. And we didn't back it up. We lost 10 in a row. We lost 10 in a row at one point, and they were right, we were wrong. They didn't pay attention to us. We didn't win. We were a 4-win team. They didn't give us any time, any energy. We hire Pete Carroll, and look at the news now every day. Patrick Graham today, boom. I'm looking up, it's a headline at ESPN.com. Give the media something positive, and I think they'll cover the team in that light. So I just like Patrick Graham because if we don't keep Patrick Graham, we're going to get someone else. Rob Leonard would be good. Young, really good coach, right? Or you go out and Pete Carroll says, I'm going to get the defensive coordinator that I had, some guy connected to USC, the Dynasty, or Seattle. Okay. And remember what a big theme of the show was yesterday. And a couple of people got it, and I appreciate that. The theme to the show yesterday, which was really important, was stay out of it. Let them figure it out. It's Tom Brady and Pete Carroll and John Spytek. Let them be the chefs in the kitchen. You show up with your buddy JT. We bring, a bottle of tequila, a 12-pack of Modelo, and we sit down and we get ready to be fed. They're the chefs in the kitchen. They're going to cook up the meal. We're going to enjoy the meal. Well, it's analogy radio, Bobby. It was a chef beer Modelo analogy I just threw up there, but I do a talk show every day. I like to talk to people. See, I'm talking to myself now. I'm looking at myself. I'm talking to myself. I want to talk to fans who like Patrick Graham. If you got a criticism of Patrick Graham, I remember taking phone calls last year on the post-game show. And on the post-game show, people were ripping Patrick Graham because the Raiders were getting smoked in games. And the defense seemed to be the only thing keeping us in the game. So I loved all that last year that Patrick Graham gave us good. I tell the story. I told it once. I'll say it again, that one of the meetings he came into and he's like quoting when I said 20 years ago on an overnight show as he was driving over the bridge in New Jersey when he was with the Giants. It's like, yeah, I used to listen to you at night. You were the only guy on. I'm like, yeah, that was me. I was kind of the only guy on for about 10 or 15 years at night. It did me well. I like Patrick Graham. I want to salute him today. Open line 702-365-9200. I'm going to get into a little bit of a Super Bowl preview. There is other news out there in the NFL. Other important news is other staffs are trying to get put together here. And I think it's a race to put together the best staff if you can. There is a race to put together that. And then on top of it, there's a lot going on with how to bet. And Lee Sterling will join us next week with his Super Bowl pick. I'm going to have Bill Krackenberger. I'm going to have Jeff Sherman. We're going to talk about gambling, the prop bets of the Super Bowl. So that's where we stand today. I wait around all day to host this show. My wife throws me, get out of the house, go in there. And yeah, you're right. I'm ready to go. Passion and energy, excitement, man. And we'll talk about all of football. I'm not narrowcasting and doing the Raiders when they're out of the playoffs and they're not in the Super Bowl. I'm broadcasting and I'm talking about the Super Bowl. So if you got a Super Bowl pick next week, it's going to be hard to call in. It's mostly interviews, but we will take phone calls. This is a good week to do it. As we got a big show tomorrow. Tomorrow's show, I will replay our interview with Pete Carroll, which got a lot of downloads. A lot of people watch that, and I'm proud of that. And a lot of people watching us on YouTube, JT the Brick, YT. The monologue was brought to you by Tito's. Tito's Handmade Vodka, my proud partner. Tito's on the rocks, like my buddy Bobby G likes. My buddy Todd likes Tito's and a splash of soda. I'm just a plain Tito's soda, no fruit. That works for me. Have a Tito's on me and celebrate Patrick Graham being back.
It's unnecessary roughness.
What is up? Hammer the like button. Big D, we got to get a T-shirt that says hammer the like button. I'm sure they're out there.
Don't miss Unnecessary Roughness, weekdays at 2 on Raider Nation Radio, 920 AM.
This is JT from the Black Hole, home of football's most notorious fan. If you're a diehard Raider fan, this is your home. Become a member today and receive. That was a fun start. Off to a good start. Access to members-only merchandise and much more. All memberships are now lifetime memberships. Once a member, always a member. If you bleed silver and black, visit theblackhole.com today. That's theblackhole.com. You know, the people who were talking about that airline crash, all my years of traveling, I've never flown into D.C. Never, Bobby, I've never flown into D.C. I've flown into Boston, New York 100 times, Detroit. So that they were showing that map. You know, this is where, like, George Washington lived. Like, this is where Abraham Lincoln took the horse and buggy ride to Ford's Theater. Like, we're talking about an area of history. And they got planes landing on a patch of a runway sticking out into the Potomac. I'm like, man, that's an aggressive place to land a plane and weather. Not that weather was bad last night. Yeah, Shannon, you said you've flown into Dulles. I've never flown into Dulles or Reagan.
Largest independent auto repair shops in the Valley. With 23 bays, over 12,000 square feet, ZipZap is your one-stop shop, offering 24-hour smog tests, oil changes, detailing, bodywork, engine and transmission rebuilding. And ZipZap provides free towing and diagnostics with qualifying repairs. No appointment necessary, 24-hour service. ZipZap Auto at Cheyenne and North Durango Drive, and online at zipzapauto.com.
I'm still doing that black coffee before 2, which is not working really well, but it's okay. I got a good workout in, good walk today, and black coffee. Yes, I've seen San Francisco Airport, and I'm flying to Oakland on Sunday to go to a service on Sunday. And Oakland's airport and San Francisco's are interesting, but San Francisco's is really bizarre, no doubt. I tried to avoid San Francisco Airport at all costs when I lived in the Bay Area. I love the Oakland Airport, man. Still the best airport I've ever flown in and out of my entire life. Say it with me. I'll put it in the chat. Not even close. Number 1 by a long shot. Burbank. Man, you get to walk up the plane stairs like you're Bob Hope in the 50s. It's nice. It's never crowded. Easy to get in and out of and park. Nope. It's just us. You got someone there or no?
I'm going to replay that Mark Davis when yesterday talked about Tom Brady.
All right. And what's the throw that I had to? What's the other thing we had?
Oh, the Cam Newton on first take this morning.
Okay.
He's talking about something about it was more important than winning a Super Bowl or something.
Yeah.
You sell your home fast. Need cash now? Well, Vancity, interest-free in just 24 hours. Repairs in the way? We'll handle them all up front. Ready for an instant sale? We'll buy your house for cash in just 24 hours. As is, no repairs. Every moment you
God, I watched my Knicks last night. They were freaking great, man. Feel like we're going to give you a run for your money.
Nice game against Denver.
Well, Boston's just shooting threes. 43s a game, Bobby. 43s a game.
The Celtics are the same thing as the Golden Knights right now. They're a decent team, but they're bored with the regular season. That's literally what's happening. You know, they don't. If they're the first seed or the third seed, they're going to give a shit as long as they get in there. Once they get in, it's another story.
All right. By the Casta Verde Law Group. If you get injured in an accident, call 702-222-9999.
Bringing in Tom Brady was bringing in somebody that was on the football side that I had been lacking having here at the organization. Back in, I guess it was 18 with John Gruden. He was somebody that I brought in and really expected to be that person on the football side that would bring stability to the organization. He had a 10-year contract and all that, and his head was chopped off. And we were put in a really bad position as an organization.
That's Mark Davis and his comments on what's going on. And no more John Gruden within the organization, but why he brought Tom Brady in. We're brought to you by Boyd Gaming. The local relationship that we have, the power of Boyd Gaming. Boyd Gaming, proud partner of our show, and one of the many reasons, going back to when I first met Mr. Boyd, back in the old days when I had my Monday Night Football show at the Gold Coast. Remember, Bobby, me and Art Barfogel used to go there, and we used to have a blast doing Monday Night Football there, and we're still doing business with Boyd Gaming. Ray does a great job, the entire team here, reminding everybody of how great Boyd is as a local company here that has a global presence because they're here in Vegas and how they treat the Raider Nation. Boyd Gaming, proud partner of our show. So we got an open line or two. We should never have one. Raiders are exciting now. Raiders are all over the news. 702-365-9200. And outstanding news that Patrick Graham, and the Raiders haven't put out the official announcement, but it's all over the place that he's the defensive coordinator. What's the one thing different you'd like to see under Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham on defense that you haven't seen? That could be a different type of player, a different type of scheme. What would you like to see different? 702-365-9200. Breaking news in the NFL. Future Hall of Fame kicker Justin Tucker of the Baltimore Ravens is accused of engaging in inappropriate behavior with 4 Baltimore area spas and wellness centers, according to the Baltimore Banner. 6 massage therapists accused Tucker of exposing himself. I'll leave the rest of it out as we have kids listening to the show. Some of the therapists allegedly ended sessions early and refused to deal with Tucker again, following encounters from 2012 and 2016. 5 of the women said Tucker asked them to massage in a certain area. So this guy's a Hall of Famer, a lock. This guy's one of the greatest players ever to play with the Ravens. If you all recall and you know what happened over the past to Deshaun Watson and his career in Houston over this is a big deal. He's 35 years old. Obviously, he put out a statement. He said the allegations in the Baltimore Banner article about me are unequivocally false. And he went on to write a really long statement about this, innocent until proven guilty. But it's a big story today. Something like this. There's always a story like this that pops up and happens around Super Bowl. Right, Bobby? I mean, how many times have we been in Super Bowl and there's some story that comes out the week of Super Bowl? This is the week before. So I just wanted to put that out there because it's breaking news. When breaking news happens with our show, we don't have to call a team meeting and reset the teleprompter. For those who know. And the Eagles opened up the practice window for Brandon Graham. He's looking to make a miracle return in the Super Bowl. There's a chance he could play next Sunday. Brandon Graham has been on the injured reserve since November 26th, 2 days after he tore his tricep in the Eagles' win over the Rams in Inglewood. This would be incredible. All accounts was he was gone for the year. Graham, of course, was one of the heroes in the Eagles' win over the Patriots in Super Bowl 52. His strip sack of Tom Brady with 2:16 left and the Eagles up 38-33 is one of the most iconic plays in Eagles history. I love when guys fight back from injuries and they decide to play and they're able to do it again. Why not? And what a teammate he is. Gangster Raider here on the app. What's happening?
Hey, what's up, JT? First of all, I just want to say happy birthday to the Raiders organization. Today is the Raiders' birthday, the day they was formed. You know what I'm saying? It's the day before my birthday. My birthday's tomorrow. I turn 51. But I want to just tell the Raider Nation that, especially the long-time diehard fans, you know what I'm saying? It's been a long time.
Yes.
Everybody, it's like family. You know what I'm saying? So to celebrate today, don't say nothing negative. Just be thankful for everything we have and appreciate the organization we have now. Appreciate the stadium we got. Appreciate everything and just be thankful. Happy birthday, Raider Nation. And early happy birthday to me. I'll be 51 tomorrow, JT. I'm gone.
I'm happy when guys call in and tell everyone it's their birthday. That's a good thing. People forget my birthday. I was born on Thanksgiving. Everyone forgets my birthday other than my wife because it's Thanksgiving and people are eating and they're watching the Detroit Lions play. But happy birthday, Gangster Raider, in advance tomorrow. And yeah, AFL Godfather, a must follow, said on January 30th, 1960, the city of Oakland was granted an American Football League franchise. Eventually, the Oakland franchise chose the official name Raiders on April 13th, 1960. But the Raiders were born on this day in 1960. Thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate that, Gangster. 702-365-9200. We also got another interesting piece of sound in today. One of the stories that are trending is Cam Newton. Oh boy, Cam Newton. We got the outfit and the bolero hats and the scarves. We got that a while ago. Okay, I am not a fashionista, nor am I, criticizing what certain men wear, but it's a bit over the top. So he was on with my buddy Stephen A. on First Take. Remember, Cam played in the Super Bowl, very good player, and Cam won an MVP. And his MVP award, his individual award, was more important than potentially winning the Super Bowl.
It doesn't matter. It pales in comparison to a championship. We've got a former league MVP right here on the set right now in Cam. I ask you, Cam, if you could give back that league MVP for a Super Bowl championship, would you do it?
No.
Oh. Really?
Why?
Because you have to ask it through this lens. That was a very journalistic viewpoint or vantage point or response, Stephen A.
That would
I'll
be
ask you this question, and just to pose this thought: what's more important, impact or championships? You look at a guy like Allen Iverson, or you stood up on the table and blah 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 blah. Everybody's not going to be Michael Jordan. Everybody's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. Everybody's not going to be these individuals who have the luxury of saying, "Hey, I not only dominated this sport, but I also have championships to back it." Like, let me remind you, Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Respectfully, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. So, yes, when you look at those guys and you say, okay, what's more important? Would you have preferred to win a Super Bowl? I think that's the humble approach. But if we're being honest, the impact of you holding yourself accountable to say everybody has a responsibility to do. And you can say as an MVP award winner or an All-American, you've held yourself or you've held your end of the bargain down. And that's what it really comes down to for me. I know that's not the popular pick. I'm trying to be popularized. But my take is I'm taking individual success because I did my job. Football is not about one guy trying to do 11 jobs. It's 11 guys doing one job. And if everybody does their job best, famous words of our coach, Belichick, just do your job.
Do it. That's a really good soundbite. I mean, he floored Stephen A. He wanted his MVP. He would not trade his MVP award in for a Super Bowl. That's really interesting to me. When you think of the Raiders Super Bowl MVPs, there are three. Fred Biletnikoff, Jim Plunkett, and Marcus Allen. Right. Okay? And what's interesting about all of them is that two of them are in the Hall of Fame. Marcus Allen and Fred. Jim Plunkett should be. How is Jim Plunkett not in the Hall of Fame? It enrages me. It really does enrages me that Jim Plunkett is not in the Hall of Fame. Jim didn't have the stats at all to get in the Hall of Fame. No chance. Zero. He didn't have the stats to get in. We all know that. He has the accolades and championships that should be a part of a Hall of Fame. Jim Plunkett was the first Latino quarterback to win a Super Bowl. That's it. That's good enough. He won 2 Super Bowls. He was the Super Bowl MVP. You want to talk to a humble man, you talk to Fred Biletnikoff. Do you know how many times Fred Biletnikoff, who won the MVP of Super Bowl 11 and did not score a touchdown? I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I see some people in the chat who are really good at Google. I believe Fred Biletnikoff is the only Super Bowl offensive MVP to win the Super Bowl MVP without scoring a touchdown. I believe that's accurate. And Freddie talked about Snake should have won it, or Dave Casper, or whoever it was, very humble about it. But he set up 2 of the greatest touchdowns in the Super Bowl because he caught the ball and got all the way down to the goal line. And he had a great game, and he was double-teamed the whole game. He was fantastic. And he won the Super Bowl MVP. I think the best award you can win in the NFL is Super Bowl MVP. More important than the regular season MVP. Because that means you played the greatest game in the greatest game. And there's a lot of people playing in a Super Bowl on both teams. To walk out of the Super Bowl with the MVP award, that's pretty special. But Cam Newton said no. Cam Newton liked that regular season MVP. You know, Aaron Rodgers, who could be the quarterback of the Raiders, not saying he is, but he could be. He's got 4 MVPs and 1 Super Bowl. 1 Super Bowl MVP. That's all he needs. He doesn't need anything more. That's a lot. But the Super Bowl MVP, I think, is the most important award. Also, the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, which Max Crosby is nominated for. That's a great award. You get a patch. You don't get a Super Bowl MVP patch for the rest of your career. You get the Walter Payton patch your entire career to wear. Right, TJ Watt. If Max can win this award once, that would be a high honor. And speaking of Max, I'm rolling today. We have the Commitment to Excellence Award coming up here in February in just a few short weeks. And there are some remaining tickets left, and there will not be. And this is backed by the Raiders, all of us here, and we'd love to hang out with you for the Commitment to Excellence Awards. So I need everybody to buy up the remaining tickets. They're really cheap, $175 to go to a Raider event like this. Sometimes the Raiders have events they're not selling tickets to. This is February 22nd. It's brought to you by the steering committee of the Oakland, the Raiders, all of their booster clubs. I think you'd want to come for that. Go to my Twitter at JT the Brick. All the information is there. Vinny Bonsignor at the top of the hour and Kevin Bollinger from Fox 5 all coming up here. Two great Raider insiders on what's occurred this week. It's been a pretty busy week in Raider Nation. All right. If Eli goes, Plunkett should go. Well, we're going to find out. Right, I'm saying my prayers for Eric Allen, as we get ready to find out or not. So I'm saying my prayers.
So you can take this one guy. We only have about 5 minutes.
You got it.
Morning tailgate, weekdays at 7 a.m. on Raider Nation Radio.
Did you hurt your hip?
9:20 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
Get ready for the ultimate hockey suite experience with PT's Taverns this December.
Bobby's getting up there in age, man. Bobby likes a cigarette. Got to keep Bobby healthy. Got to keep Bobby going here. Yeah, Shannon, we want Lester Hayes to get in. With all due respect to Lester Hayes, he didn't have 54 career interceptions. 54. That's why I believe Eric Allen has a very good chance. Let me check the list. All-time interception leaders.
Get cash tomorrow. Visit lendingstore.com. Get the cash you need now. So visit lendingstore.com.
Paul Krause had 81. Rod Woodson, 71. Night Train Lane, 68. Ronnie Lott, 63. Mel Blunt, 57. Everson Walls, 57. I did not know that. Eric Allen, 54. Willie Brown, 54. Wow, I did not know that. Willie and Eric had the same amount. Darryl Green, 54. Ty Law, 53. Eric Allen had more interceptions than Deion Sanders. Deion had 53.
Check the weather for April showers and watch garden videos about May flowers. Straight Talk, real unlimited data available at Walmart and
We'll find out next week.
The big game is right around the corner, and the city of North Las Vegas invites you to the ultimate gaming experience. Watch every play on a massive 42-foot HD screen at the
He's in Michigan, Bobby?
Yep.
Okay.
This is a family-friendly event, and best of all, it's free to attend.
It's going to be a Jack Jones interception coming back. We got about 3.5, 4 minutes.
For information, call 702-633-2418. Don't miss the big game party at Craig Ranch Regional Park, where admission is free.
So there I was, trying to impress my wife by fixing the kitchen sink clog myself. I thought, how hard can it be? I mean, I do own a plumbing company after all. 10 minutes later, water spraying everywhere, kitchen looks like a disaster zone, and my wife's already got Gettle on the phone. Let Gettle handle your clogged drain.
Oh, yeah.
And while we're at it, have my guys perform our furnace rejuvenation to keep your heating system running smoothly all winter long. Visit Gettle.com, Gettl. Will unclog your drain, but it's hard to spell.
Hey, Borzo's fans, ready for a deal that's big on taste, but
Appreciate you liking it, OC Kang. Thank you. Will Marshawn Lynch make the Hall of Fame? Very good question. Very good question. I got to dive into his yardage and carries and all that. That second Super Bowl would have been a lock. Not giving him the ball at the goal line. Remember that.
Hi, I'm Rob, owner of Desert Springs Pools. You may not know this, but we've been
Yeah, you said Dan said, I wish Eric Allen came to play the next season when C. Wood got hurt and Marty blocked us from getting Deion Sanders. The real wild thing about Eric Allen is his last game was the tuck rule. That was his last game, and he had a lot left in the tank. Who are Dart's comps? I think Dart's comps is Baker Mayfield. Baker was better than Dart, won the Heisman Trophy, but I think that is interesting.
Brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
Hamilton takes it back to his second and 16 for the Saints as Wilson motions out to the right.
Rattler with play action. He's escaping out to the right. Throws it high. And it's picked off Jack Jones in a diving effort. He stands up. He steps out of bounds. It went off the hands of Cedric Wilson. And Jack Jones with a diving pick. His third of the season. And the Raiders will go celebrate in the end zone to the right.
Jason Horowitz on the call, along with Lincoln Kennedy. We're brought to you by La Casa Cigars and Lounge in Tivoli Village. Have you been to La Casa? I got a couple of cigars that I have to smoke soon because I've had them from Mike over the last couple of weeks. I might have to get there tonight and have one of them, man. He's got some good cigars over there. It's right there in Tivoli Village. You can't miss it. There's a lot going on. We thank him. And Mike's one of the main reasons we're able to broadcast from the Super Bowl in New Orleans, our proud partner here. Mark in Michigan. Thanks for waiting before the top of the hour. Go ahead, Mark.
Good afternoon, JT. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to, just say that just excited about Pete Carroll. And this is the most, I've been a Raider fan since 1974. And this is the most confident I've felt about the organizationally where we're setting since probably 98 when Al Davis hired John Gruden one. And what excites me so much about Pete Carroll is that he has a proven track record of not only finding and developing player talent, but also developing a staff and coaches. I mean, he has a coaching tree that is out there where, and if I could just spin off of that, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's a passionate Steelers fan who was hoping that they would get rid of Tomlin and take Pete Carroll. And his rationale was that Tomlin doesn't have a coaching tree, and I'm not going to debate that. But I think with Pete Carroll, we have something that I think really can set the foundation for long-term success. And I also think this can translate well for Patrick Graham, because I think Pete Carroll has obviously proven track record. He can develop assistants and promote them for future opportunities. So feel great about where we are moving forward, Big G.
Excellent. Thank you for the phone call. Great. Pete Carroll, of course, has a tree. So does John Gruden. So does Mike Holmgren. Belichick's got a big tree. I'm fascinated by coaching trees. I can sit and have a Modelo with you and talk coaching trees for hours. I love that topic. And Sean McVay is now the king. Sean McVay it came through the tree of Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden and Bruce Allen. I think Bruce Allen, our former GM, hired all those coaches when he was the president of the Redskins back then. Before the Commanders, Bruce Allen had Kyle Shanahan. Remember when Mike Shanahan went to Washington? Remember when Mike Shanahan was there and had the assistance of Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel, his son Kyle, Matt LaFleur? Wow. They're all on one staff. And then you get a chance to see what's going on with Sean McVay. And you look at his coaches, Kevin O'Connell, Liam Cohen. The list goes on and on of all these coaches that are coming through the Sean McVay tree. I'm sure he's going to give his dad and grandfather and everybody a lot of credit there. But coaching trees are really cool. And, well, Pete Carroll's got a long one because his coaching tree in college was massive because of USC. I mean, what he did in college was amazing. On a serious note, I opened up the show talking about the plane crash in D.C. at the Potomac. 14 U.S. figure skaters, including 6 members of the Skating Club of Boston, were among the 64 who were killed. 14 U.S. figure skaters. Man, unbelievable. Those athletes and all those lost souls. We pray for them. And we're thinking about them today as we're getting a chance to talk sports. Next hour, Vinny Bonsignor leads us off. Do not miss this. An update live from Mobile. All right, I'm going to, you got to stick around for this Vinny Bonsignor. This will be good. He's calling from the Senior Bowl. So stick around for that. I'm going to pop away for a second, get a glass of agua fria, and come right back. Stretch the legs a little bit. Yes, maybe you could go get a sandwich or a carne asada burrito or a cup of coffee or a cerveza. Or what else do you partake in during the day? Anybody partaking around this time of day with anything else I could be forgetting?
Visit their 10 casinos across the valley. Don't let the game get out of hand. Please bet responsibly.
The place for all your Raiders coverage is right here on Raider Nation Radio, 920 AM.
Backing down has never been an option for our family. Our father battled communism in Cuba before coming to the U.S. and studying law at night. Today, we proudly carry on that Castleberry family legacy. His brothers raised to fight for what's right, care for those in need, treat clients like family. We bring the very best legal team to fight for you. It's our heritage. It's the Castleberry way. We're the Castleberry Brothers, and we have your back. Brotherswin.com.
Mark Patrick Seminars is coming to Las Vegas Thursday, February 6th for one day only. Here, we talk about how hypnosis works to help people lose weight or stop smoking.
We all have an image of ourselves. And that image, if we have an image of a non-smoker, we attract non-smoker behaviors and beliefs. If we have an image of a smoker, we attract the habits of a smoker. If we have the image of a person who is overweight, we live up to those expectations. So one of the things we focus on with our programs is this, is we work on, at the subconscious level, the image or snapshot of yourself. If you have a healthy image, you attract healthy habits. We work on under hypnosis, taking the pleasure association out for smokers that they have towards smoking, putting back in, or consciously that it's a filthy, disgusting habit that we never wish to start in the first place that comes in dead. Let's get around these sessions.
All right, let's chat. What are we chatting about, man? Green Bud.
Mark Patrick Seminars, Thursday, February 6th at the Santa Fe Station Hotel and Casino. Go to markpatrickseminars.com.
Running a business gets more complicated every year.
All right, Flores Plunkett. That's a good name.
When it comes to your workers' comp program, Pro Group Management has been helping
Flores Plunkett. Sounds like it's a green scene up there. Best coaching tree, in my opinion. Wow, that's a great thing. I'd probably go Bill Walsh. I think Bill Walsh, the old Niner coach, had George Seifert, and then the list just went on, and he goes through Paul Brown. Bill Walsh, I think it's hard to argue that Bill Walsh doesn't have the greatest coaching tree. I mean, Belichick's tree starts with Parcells and goes before that. I think, who was he with in Detroit when Belichick started with the Colts in Detroit? I don't know if there's a Belichick connection to Shula. There could be. Don Shula's probably got a pretty good coaching tree.
Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. Richard Harris Law Firm.
Yeah, the coaching tree is a fun topic because, you know, a lot of these coaches, man, they move a lot. Their lives are hard. They make money, but they don't make the money you think they do. If you're a coach, let me give you an example here. Say you're a head coach. Now head coaches make $10 million, right? So that's pretty good. Say you're an assistant coach or you're a D-backs coach. You coach wide receivers like Fred Biletnikoff did for 14 years. But in modern day now. So say you make $1 million or $1.2 million. Taxes, you might not live with your family. Your wife and kids might live in a different state because you don't want to move your wife and kids to a new state. You got to pay rent or rent a house. There's a lot of perks coming with the job, man, but, man, there's a lot of expenses. Coaching's hard.
Never miss another show. Stream us live or listen to past podcasts 24/7 at lvsportsnetwork.com. This is Raider Nation.
What's the talk for that dog? Go get Vinny.
Yep.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show. Brought to you by Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. One love.
It's the JT the Brick Show, broadcasting live from the Finley Cadillac Performance Studio, your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years. And now, here's JT the Brick.
Welcome back, everybody. It's hour number 2 on the flagship of the Raiders, Raider Nation Radio, the mobile app, YouTube at JT the Brick YT, and anywhere where you can get us. Thanks a lot for listening today. We'll be here for a show tomorrow. Back on Monday. I'll be in Vegas on Monday. Tuesday, I'm traveling to New Orleans. Harry Ruiz, the Latino voice of the Raiders, will be in for me. And then we're live Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think Q Myers is coming up next. We'll be there all week with both of his shows. And I'm excited for that. So there's a lot going on. And I'm pumped up about that to go back. I think this is my 28th or 29th radio row at the Super Bowl, and I never take it for granted. I'm always honored to be down there and interviewing big names and having that type of access, which is fun. We'll go out to Mobile, where my son got there yesterday. I hope he bumps in to the great Vinny Bonsignor, who's providing so much content. How are you, Vinny?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? Yeah, I hope to see your son.
Yeah, I hope you do too. He's down there with Rod Woodson, who I guess is speaking to one of the defenses there. So I hope you guys connect. And I've been loving your content. I kept listening to a couple of the hits you were doing on your show in the morning. What has impressed you the most so far? Because I know you weren't happy day one of the quarterbacks, Milroe and Dart. They didn't look that great. But after the next day and what you've seen since, what jumps out at you?
Yeah, and as an NFL general manager, a couple of them actually, told me yesterday. The Senior Bowl is hard. It's a hard setting to truly evaluate the quarterbacks. They're just getting thrown into things with a bunch of new teammates and new terminology on Sunday. They get on the field for the first time together on Tuesday. So they're throwing to guys that they've never thrown to before, and they're installing an offense. So the cards are kind of stacked against the quarterbacks, especially early on in practice. And heck, Riley Leonard, the Notre Dame quarterback, told me yesterday, look, I've never done a center snap drop, in college. I'm always in, the shotgun. So all of that, the footwork, seeing the field from that vantage point is new to him. And other quarterbacks here at the Senior Bowl. But the good news for them is, as the week went on, including today, where I thought everybody, or I felt like Jackson Dart, Riley Leonard, Jalen Milroe, all had really crisp days today. Their crispest days of these 3 days here of practices. They looked much better. And I think that Jackson Dart, I felt, has separated himself as the best quarterback here. I don't know where that's ultimately going to land him in the quarterback draft with Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. I felt like Jalen Milroe shows that he has a lot of skills to work with. I felt he was pressing a little bit early on. He looked a lot more comfortable today. And I feel like Riley Leonard, with his size and arm ability, if you could get some mechanical things, worked out, especially going from the kind of systems that he ran in college to what they're going to ask him to do in the NFL, if somebody can have some patience in him, 2 years down the line, there might be something there with Riley Leonard.
Vinny Bonsignore's our guest. So let's spend a little bit more time on Dart, who I went out of my way to watch a little of his tape and watch his games at Ole Miss. And I like the swagger. I like some of the off-charted throws that he makes. I like he can throw across his body. He can do a lot of the radical stuff that I like in a quarterback. But I also care about being an NFL quarterback and being a leader and commanding the huddle and going through your progressions and reads. So when you look at him and working under Lane Kiffin, who was a former head coach for the Raiders, what obviously needs to be fixed with him that could put him inside the top 20, 25 picks in the draft?
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to make up that kind of ground, although we both know there's a quarterback tax in the NFL, and sometimes if you need one bad enough, you may pull the trigger way earlier than people might imagine. That was the case with Bo Nix last year. Nobody thought that Bo Nix was going to be the 12th pick overall last year. Let's be honest about that. And really Michael Penix as well, because of the injuries and things of that nature. J.J. McCarthy, who, a year and a half ago felt like he was going to be a first-round pick, let alone a top 10 first-round pick. So there's precedent there. And I guess I wouldn't be shocked if Dart ended up moving his way into that area. In terms of things that he needs to fix, I don't know if there's a whole lot. It's just really more consistency, more refinement. He's only 21 years old, so he's the youngest quarterback in this group of quarterbacks. So he's definitely got time on his side. And as I was a little bit guilty of sort of assuming that he was playing in a system that was a very quarterback-friendly system, kind of that one-read quarterback system that you see that's a lot written about him in that regard. But the more I watched him on film, the more I realized, no, that's not the case. And I got a chance to talk to you about that yesterday. And he called it, a lazy narrative about him because people lump him in the same category as his predecessor at Ole Miss, Matt Corral, who played in an entirely different system for an entirely different offensive coordinator. That coordinator is now the head coach at Mississippi State. Jackson Dart's been playing under Lane Kiffin and really Charlie Weiss Jr., the son of former Patriots offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss, the former Notre Dame coach, and that's a decidedly more pro system. And as Jackson told me yesterday, that's the offense that I played in, which is a world of difference than the one that was previously here, but everyone sort of lumps us in the same category. And the more you watch a film of him, the more you realize that is the case. So I don't see that's going to be a major issue with him in the NFL now going through his progressions, because I think that process has already started under Charlie Weiss Jr.
Vinny Bonsignore's our guest from Mobile at the Senior Bowl. I had a listener wanted me to ask you this one. For an example, it could be either team. The Chargers pick at 22, the Packers pick at 23. They don't need quarterbacks. If the Raiders took best available at 6 and then they traded into the first round at 23 or 24 or 22, would that be a fair place to go get Jackson Dart?
I mean, leaving here today or leaving here, after Saturday's game, I mean, it feels like more in the second round, which puts the Raiders in a really good position there. But that's where you have to do your homework, right? That's where John Spytek and Pete Carroll and everyone else in that front office need to, coaching staff and front office need to be aware of the room. And if they feel like Jackson Dart is the guy that they want, if they don't go quarterback at 6 or trade up to get Cam Ward or Sanders, and they feel like, man, if we wait till that second round pick, he might not be there, and then you're over there kicking yourself because he's not. If they feel like they got to go get him, then yeah, absolutely, they should do that. But it's all going to be predicated on how they're reading the room and what kind of information they're getting.
Vinny B is our guest. So, Vinny, the running back is a priority for the Raiders here. Can I get your big picture on what you think of I was really disappointed with the play of the offensive line, and I thought Zeus was going to have a big year, not a good year. When we were hanging out in Costa Mesa, I was just looking at him and didn't see a lot because I thought the offense struggled a lot at Costa Mesa in hindsight. But I wanted him to do well. He did not. And I don't know what you think what were his expectations? Mine were big, and I got that wrong. So knowing the running back room and the contracts the way they are, how high did the Raiders got to spend some draft equity to go get a big-time running back?
Yeah, well, the good news is this is a extremely deep running back class. It might be the deepest running back class in a long, long time. And I don't know that Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry truly changed the narrative about, where to spend your draft capital on running back. More power to them. They had fabulous years. Obviously, Saquon Barkley's been a one-man wrecking crew. But I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of teams that all of a sudden change their mindset and say, we got to draft 5 running backs in the first round, even though there might be 5 running backs that are worthy of first-round picks 10, 15 years ago. That's still not the case necessarily in how the NFL looks at that position as it relates to the draft capital, which is good news because the Raiders do need a running back. And, we saw when Sincere McCormick got in there before he got hurt. It just looked better when he was running the ball rather than Zamir White. So it made you wonder, okay, how much do we really put on the offensive line compared to what Zamir was responsible for in the lack of run game earlier in the season? It's probably a combination of both. But as the offensive line got better, and then Sincere, had those couple of games, it looked a lot better and it looked a lot easier. So now you start to lean, well, maybe it was more on the running back than just the offensive line. And if that's the case, the good news is they're going to have their choice of running backs beyond that first round. And you're seeing a couple of really good ones here. Devin Neal from Kansas is a really good young looking running back. Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State was a man amongst boys. Woody Marks from USC. I really liked what I saw from Bashal Tutin from Virginia Tech. He had a really nice day today. So there's a lot of good running backs in this draft. I don't think that they're going to have to rush to get one. There's also a really good running back from North Carolina as well. They don't have to be urgent to get one because there's just too many good ones that are going to be available in that second and third round and even beyond that.
Wrapping it up with Vinny Bonsignore. Vinny, what are your peers thinking and some of the scouts and executives about the hiring of Pete Carroll and John Spytek?
Yeah, just a lot of positive feedback that I've gotten down here in Mobile for both of those hires. I think Pete Carroll, the name speaks for itself. The respect is there from his peers, and as an organization, when you're going against a Pete Carroll-led team, it's going to be a day of work, and it's really a whole week of work because he's one of the best to do it. So the Raiders, I think, and just the feeling that I get around the league around here in Mobile, Alabama, talking to people in the league, is that they have a difference maker along the sidelines, and that raised a lot of eyebrows. And I also think there's a lot of respect for John Spytek. His time was coming, obviously, and his time was this year to run his own team after doing the work that he did at various stops in the NFL, including the last 3 as the assistant general manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So there's a feeling around the league that the Raiders really got it right with those hires. But I'll go a step further, and this is kind of consistent with what I've been hearing for a while now. Tom Brady's addition has definitely raised the Raiders' profile on the football side of things, and then Mark Davis and his decision to bring in the other investors that he brought in and solidify some things that he felt needed to be solidified. I think that landed really well with the rest of the NFL as well. And there's this feeling like, the Raiders are set up pretty well now, whether it's on the football side of things, leadership side of things, the financial side of things, a lot of different ways that the Raiders have really helped themselves. And it's a process that started over the last few years, but it feels like things kind of came together, especially on that football side, over these last few months. And I think people are really intrigued about where the Raiders are going to go from here.
Thank you, Vinny. Let's thank your proud partners as you're in Mobile because of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Dos Catas Tequila. If you're not in Las Vegas and you want to tap into the hottest tequila brand in Las Vegas, DosCatasTequila.com. You can make your order online, get it shipped wherever you are. But if you are in Las Vegas, Total Wine, Lee's Liquor, and Smith's grocery stores all have Dos Catas Tequila. And if you need a little extra cash right now and the credit cards are maxed out or maybe their credit's not where it needs to be, LendingStore.com have their experts help you find a lender that can get you $500 to $5,000 in your bank account as early as tomorrow. Just go to LendingStore.com for all the details.
Safe travels, Vinny. Thanks for the time. I appreciate you.
Thank you, JT.
Take care. Vinny Bonsignore live from Mobile. Get him once a week. Always good. So the Spytek hire along with Tom Brady, what does it mean? Well, a lot of people are saying Tom Brady had a lot to do with this. I'll sit down and talk to Mark when things kind of cool off here because they're really busy and get his vibe for it too. Mark Davis also met the media and talked a little bit about this. And I think these were good hires. Were they the best hires? We'll see. They got to win. They got to win. But everybody in Raider Nation seems pretty happy there. So thanks to Vinny Bonsignore in Mobile, Alabama, where when my son went for the first time and got in there. And I'm excited what he has to say about that too. So some of the players that are there, Vinny says it's a heavy running back market. Raiders got to get a running back early. Have to get a running back early. That could be early in free agency. You want to spend it in free agency maybe, but they got to get one early. They got to get a number one wide receiver. No disrespect to Jacoby Myers. Brock Bowers puts up number one wide receiver numbers, but we need a number one wide receiver. And then after that, I'd like a right tackle. Every year I keep telling you, right tackle, proven right tackle, not some project, not a project at right tackle, someone who's a real NFL right tackle. And other than that, who's gonna remain here? Who's gonna be re-signed? Players. I'm assuming Robert Spillane, Trayvon Merrick. I would hope. I don't know what the numbers are going to look at. Like, what are their agents going to expect from the Raiders here? That's something that's going to be worked out. Coming up an hour here after Kevin Bollinger comes up next. 102-365-9200. Brought to you by Remy Martin. With Remy Martin for all of your pool events or Super Bowl events. If you get bottle service, ask for Remy Martin exclusively. If you're sitting in a sports book, Remy Martin cocktail will be fantastic for you. You'll love one, and you can toast the Super Bowl. JT, as we continue about 40 minutes ago, thanks to Vinny, thanks to everybody on our YouTube channel, where a lot of people are getting after it, which is a good thing. Thanks to the bricklayers there. As I say goodbye, and we'll come back from Kevin Bollinger from Fox 5 next. Thanks, everyone. Another hour 20 in the can on YouTube. Building this thing, man. Share it with everybody. I'm trying to get another 100 subscribers a day. 100 subscribers a day. I don't think that's hard to do because I keep hearing this algorithm takes off once you get to 10,000. We're on our way to 7. from scratch. And I need to do more. I need to stream more and do more, but we'll get it going. Thank you. And yes, we'll be here tomorrow for the first hour tomorrow, like we always do on Friday before our bucket of Modelo's.